the praise of heaven for performing that miracle and saving us from destruction. So the Talmud itself asks the question. The Talmud in Masechet Megillah, and the Talmud provides two answers, and there's a third answer which is a very accepted in the Jewish world. So I want to go through those three ideas because they will help us define what is considered a miracle. Because everything is a miracle and everything is nature. So in fact, it's only in the eye of the beholder that the miracle occurred and exists. Someone who refuses to believe in miracles can say that it's only nature. And that's especially true of Purim, where we ourselves define the miracle as being a hidden miracle. And that's the star. So apparently there are miracles that are easier to discern, and there are miracles that are hidden that you really have to look hard to call it a miracle. So let's look at three ways that the tradition advances why we don't say Hallel, and to analyze those three ways, I think we'll gain from that. First one, the Gemara says, is Kriyata Hiluta. The reading of the Megillah is itself Hallel. So simply by reading and hearing the Megillah, which is one of the mitzvot of Purim, we are saying Hallel. The Gemara is not too happy with that, because the reading of the Megillah is the reading of the Megillah. Why should we say the reading of the Megillah is Hallel? So the Gemara advances, Rava in the Gemara advances a different answer. He says, well, the miracle is not complete because Akate of the Achashverosh Anan. We are still under the rule of Achashverosh, meaning we're still under the rule of non-Jews. That danger passed, but we're constantly in the threat of a danger. So there's nothing to say Hallel about. So the first answer is that we do say Hallel, but Hallel is the reading of the Megillah. The second answer is we don't say Hallel because the miracle is not complete. We are still subject to the rule of foreign leaders, as we are well aware of in our time as well. We can talk about being independent all day long, but it's obvious to everyone that we're not independent. Russia is independent. Putin does what he wants to do. You like it, you don't like it, you threaten, you don't. He does what he wants to do. We are not so fortunate. There's a third opinion that says the reason that we don't say Hallel is because the miracle happened outside of the land of Israel. In other words, the third opinion is, again, that we don't say Hallel on Purim. But the reason that we don't say Hallel on Purim is because the miracle occurred outside the land of Israel, and anything that occurs outside the land of Israel does not warrant the recitation of Hallel. Now, this opinion is the opinion of many of the Rishonim, and in fact, it is probably the opinion that's most broadly adopted. That we don't say Hallel because the miracle happened in Chutz La'aretz, it didn't happen in Eretz Yisrael. So we have here three diametrically opposed opinions about the nature of miracles and the nature of saying Hallel. First, and by the way, if you look in the Shulchan Aruch, or you look in the Rambam, they quote the opinion that the reading of the Megillah is the Hallel. Even though Rava is a later Amora, and the Halacha is always like the later opinion, because the later opinion took into account all of the previous opinions. Nevertheless, the opinion of Rava that Akate Avde de Achashverosh Shanan, that we are still the servants of Achashverosh, is not brought lahalacha, not quoted as being the law. The law is that reading the Megillah is Hallel. So again, that seems to be counterintuitive. We should always follow the later opinion, not the previous opinion. And again, generally speaking, the opinion that is followed is because it happened in Chutz La'aretz, because it happened outside the land of Israel. So let's look at this. So the first definition that we have to come to is, what is Hallel? What is meant by the praise of God? So according to the first opinion, that reading the Megillah is Hallel, then anything that we attribute to heaven is equal to the recitation of Hallel. So in effect, according to that opinion, we may be saying Hallel every day of the year, depending on our attitude, depending on how we look at things. And in our prayer service in the morning, we have many verses from Tehillim that are really can fall under the rubric of Hallel. that we're praising God. We're praising God that the sun is here, that nature is here, that we are here. So Hallel is therefore not a formal prayer, but rather it's an attitude. We have reduced the attitude to a formal prayer. That was done by taking chapters from Tehillim, from Psalms, from David HaMelech, and stringing them together, and that became our Hallel. But before David HaMelech, before King David, how did they say Hallel on Pesach? They certainly said Hallel at the Seder. They didn't have the Tehillim. The answer is that they said songs of praise of God. If you sing songs of praise of God, then that becomes the equivalent of Hallel. So when David HaMelech came along, the temple existed, they formalized it into a series of psalms that we recite that are part of Hallel. So therefore, the first opinion is that simply by reading the Megillah, we're praising God. We're telling a story here where God is, so to speak, hidden. But we who have the proper attitude towards these things are really singing the praises of God by telling the story. And therefore, anyone that tells a story or a life story that points out the praise of God in one's own individual life is also saying Hallel. Now that's a broad view of Hallel. This, I don't want to get involved in it, but there's always a discussion on Yom HaAtzmaut whether to say Hallel with a bracha, without a bracha, half Hallel, all of Hallel, not to say it at all. In Halacha, I'm not talking about other factors, but in Halacha, it depends on our definition of Hallel and our definition of events that occurred. So if we see everything as being natural, so there's no reason to say Hallel. So you have to see, so to speak, the Nes Nistar, the hidden miracle, to be able to say. So not everybody sees it, which is why it's a hidden miracle. So you should know miracles in the Jewish world are like a Rorschach test. They show you an ink blot and you read into it whatever you want to read into it. So is the state of Israel a miracle? Depends on how you read it. But one thing is for sure, the survival of the Jewish people is a miracle. The survival of the Jewish people over millennia and over all of the attempts to destroy us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Matzilenu Miyodam. Heaven saves us somehow, not without cost. So that's a miracle. What do we do with that miracle? Do we praise God for it? What do we do with it? That's the question that remains before every Jew today. So a great portion of the Jewish world does not see it as a miracle at all. And certainly doesn't see it as a miracle that affects them. But the story of the Megillah, Kriyosa Zuhi Lalusa, reading the Megillah is the praise, is the Hallel, is the ability to take natural events and string them together so that when you look back, you say, wow, what a miracle. So that's one idea that we are taught here. And again, that idea seems to be the one that's adopted lahalacha, that we are really saying Hallel. We just say it by reading the Megillah. The second idea is that we say Hallel only regarding the land of Israel. So the question arises, that being the case, why do we say Hallel on Pesach? Pesach was not in the land of Israel. Why do we say Hallel on Shavuot? The Matan Torah was not in the land of Israel. Why do we say Hallel on Sukkot? Sukkot was not in the land of Israel. So the commentators say, because all of that preceded going to the land of Israel. That's one interpretation. The second interpretation is that since our forefathers, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, were in the land of Israel and lived in the land of Israel and acquired the land of Israel for us, so therefore our Hallel is in their stead, in their merit. But once we were exiled from the land of Israel, heaven, so to speak, threw us out, so then we don't say Hallel anymore. So Hallel is dependent not only on what happened, it's dependent upon where it happened. So Hanukkah happened in the land of Israel. So it's, you can't compare miracles, but on first blush, Purim is a greater miracle than Hanukkah. And yet on Hanukkah, we say Hallel 8 days, the complete Hallel. And on Purim, we don't say Hallel because it happened outside the land of Israel. So you see that location, like in real estate, location, location, location. Everything is dependent upon where it happens. So the land of Israel is, so to speak, a miraculous place. To declare something a miracle, you have to be in a miraculous place. Outside the land of Israel, you're not in a miraculous place. You're in Kansas, or wherever you are. So you can recognize that a miracle is happening in the land of Israel, but you're not part of it. And if you're not part of it, you don't say Hallel. And that was part of the structure that kept on binding the Jewish people to the land of Israel over 1,800 years of exile. They sensed that if they want to have miraculous redemption, it has to be through the land of Israel. Because only the land of Israel is set up in such a way that its existence is miraculous, not subject to human logic or policy. We have numerous examples of that. And the Talmud itself says that the land of Israel is called Eretz Hatzvi because just like the hide of a deer is elastic, said the land of Israel is elastic. In 1936, there was a commission called the Loudermilk Commission. England sponsored it. And all the experts, nothing like the experts, who are never wrong and who almost are always wrong, but never admit it. Nobody ever came back to you now and said, that whole craziness with COVID was wrong. We know it's wrong, proven wrong, scientific. Nobody, and it's not, no expert is ever wrong. So the Loudermilk Commission said that the land of Israel, from the Jordan to the sea, if I could borrow a current popular phrase, cannot support more than 2.5 million people. The experts said that. So Britain said, how can we allow immigration into the country? The country cannot absorb such an immigration. The rabbi said the land of Israel is elastic. As many as Jews that want to come, there'll be room. So today there are 8 million in the land of Israel, in the state of Israel, and we got another few million that are not Jews, that also exist. And everybody seems to have what they eat. But the land of Israel is miraculous. It creates a miraculous atmosphere. In order to say Hallel, you have to have a miraculous atmosphere. Otherwise, you will always treat it as being just natural. And Purim happens in Persia, not in the land of Israel. And then there's the third opinion that we are still the servants of Ahasuerus. In other words, that that a miracle has to be, so to speak, lasting. So by Egypt, we say Hallel, because we're never going back to Egypt again. By Sinai, we say Hallel, because there's never going to be another granting of the Torah from heaven. By Sukkot, we say Hallel, because we're never going to live for 40 years in the desert again. So those are, so to speak, permanent miracles. Miracles that will not have to be repeated. The circumstances for them will not recur. However, Purim is Akate Achashverosh Shanan. It's a continuing miracle. Every generation experiences Purim again. We thought we wouldn't. We thought that somehow our generation, after the Holocaust, would be exempt. Who would have dreamt the situation that we're in? Who would have imagined such a thing? Anti-Semitism in America. You had an Orthodox Jew running for vice president, and he won the popular vote. Could it be better than that? And in 25 years, it turned around. So Purim is not a permanent miracle. It's Akate Achashverosh of the Achashverosh Shanan. We are still the servants of Achashverosh. So it's a long-lasting miracle. My Rebbe in the yeshiva, I remember, there was in the early 1950s, there was a drug company that produced a pill called Contact, which was a pill against the flu and colds and respiratory infection. And their claim was that it lasted for a long time. It was like when you took it, there were bits of it that kept on operating. So the Rebbe used to say that the miracle that we need has to be contact. It has to last a long time. Can't just give immediate relief. Immediate relief is insufficient. So the third definition of a miracle is something that's permanent, something that's long-lasting. And in order for have that kind of miracle which activates the recitation of Hallel, we can no longer be servants of Achashverosh, servants of anybody. We have to truly be independent. And that's the goal that we still have in front of us, that we have not yet achieved. So therefore, we don't say Hallel. The rabbis took an optimistic view of the matter. They said, we'll say Hallel even if it's not in the land of Israel. We'll say Hallel even if it's not permanent. We'll say Hallel. If you read the story, we'll say Hallel. That's the Hallel. To know the story is the Hallel. To know that we survived. That's sufficient. And that's why La Halacha, they decided that even though we don't say Hallel, Kriyoso, reading the Megillah, is Hallel. Because of the fact that that gives us hope for the future and ushers us into further miracles and into better times. So have a happy Purim, everyone. Stay sober, more or less. Shabbat Shalom.